The Epic of Gilgamesh, Tablet 2, translation by Benjamin Foster. While Enkidu was seated before her, each was drawn by love to the other. Enkidu forgot the steppe where he was born. For 6 days, 7 nights, Enkidu was aroused and flowed into Shamhat. The harlot said to him, to Enkidu, "You are handsome, Enkidu. You are become like a god. Why roam the steppe with wild beasts? Come, let me lead you to ramparted Uruk, to the holy temple, abode of Anu. Let me lead you to ramparted Uruk, to hallowed Eanna, abode of Ishtar, the place of Gilgamesh, who is perfect in strength, and so, like a wild bull, he lords it over the people. You are just like him. You will love him like your own self. Come away from this desolation, bereft even of shepherds." He heard what she said, accepted her words. He was yearning for one to know his heart, a friend. The counsel of Shamhat touched his heart. She took off her clothing. With one piece she dressed him, the second she herself put on. Clasping his hand, like a guardian deity, she led him to the shepherds' huts where a sheepfold was. The shepherds crowded around him. They murmured their opinions among themselves. "This fellow, how like Gilgamesh in stature tall, proud as a battlement. No doubt he was born in the steppe. Like the force of heaven, mighty is his strength." They set bread before him. They set beer before him. He looked uncertainly, then stared. Enkidu did not know how to eat bread, nor had he ever learned to drink beer. The harlot made ready to speak, saying to Enkidu, "Eat the bread, Enkidu, the staff of life. Drink the beer, the custom of the land." Enkidu ate the bread until he was sated. He drank 7 juglets of beer. His mood became relaxed. He was singing joyously. He felt light-hearted, and his features glowed. He treated his hairy body with water. He anointed himself with oil, turned into a man. He put on clothing, became like a warrior. He took his weapons, hunted lions. The shepherds lay down to rest at night. He slew wolves, defeated lions. The herdsmen, the great lords, lay down to sleep. Enkidu was the watchman, a wakeful man. He was tall. There follows a gap, and the text picks up. He was making love with Shamhat. He lifted his eyes. He saw a man. He said to the harlot, "Shamhat, bring that man here. Why has he come? I will ask him to account for himself." The harlot summoned the man. He came over. Enkidu said to him, "Fellow, where are you rushing? What is this, your burdensome errand?" The man made ready to speak, said to Enkidu, "They have invited me to a wedding. Is it not the people's custom to get married? I have heaped high on the festival tray the fancy dishes for the wedding. People's loins are open for the taking. For Gilgamesh, king of ramparted Uruk, people's loins are open for the taking. He mates with the lawful wife, he first, the groom after. By divine decree pronounced, from the cutting of his umbilical cord, she is his due." At the man's account, his face went pale. Then there's another gap, resuming. Enkidu was walking in front, with Shamhat behind him. When he entered the street of ramparted Uruk, a multitude crowded around him. He stood there in the street of ramparted Uruk, with the people crowding around him. They said about him, "He is like Gilgamesh in build. Though shorter in stature, he is stronger of frame. This man, where he was born, ate the springtime grass. He must have nursed on the milk of wild beasts." The whole of Uruk was standing beside him. The people formed a crowd around him. A throng was jostling toward him. Young men were mobbed around him. Infantile, they groveled before him. In Uruk, at this time, sacrifices were underway. Young men were celebrating. The hero stood ready for the upright young man. For Gilgamesh, as for a god, the partner was ready. For the goddess of love-making, the bed was made. Gilgamesh was to join with the girl that night. Enkidu approached him. They met in the public street. Enkidu blocked the door to the wedding with his foot, not allowing Gilgamesh to enter. They grappled each other, holding fast like wrestlers. They shattered the doorpost. The wall shook. Gilgamesh and Enkidu grappled each other, holding fast like wrestlers. They shattered the doorpost. The wall shook. They grappled each other at the door to the wedding. They fought in the street, the public square. It was Gilgamesh who knelt before the pin, his foot on the ground. His fury abated. He turned away. After he turned away, Enkidu said to him, to Gilgamesh, "As one unique did your mother bear you. The wild cow of the ramparts, Ninsun, exalted you above the most valorous of men. Enlil has granted you kingship over the people. Then there's a gap. They kissed each other and made friends. And another gap. He is mighty in the land, strength is his, like the force of heaven, mighty is his strength, his tall stature. The mother of Gilgamesh made ready to speak, said to Gilgamesh, Ninsun, the wild cow, made ready to speak, said to Gilgamesh, my son, bitterly. And another gap, the tablet is quite damaged here. Enkidu has neither father nor mother. His hair was growing freely. He was born in the steppe. No one... Enkidu stood still, listening to what he said. He shuddered and sat down. Tears filled his eyes. He was listless. His strength turned to weakness. They clasped each other. They joined hands like... Gilgamesh made ready to speak, saying to Enkidu, why are your eyes full of tears? Why are you listless? Your strength turned to weakness. Enkidu said to him, to Gilgamesh, cries of sorrow, my friend, have cramped my muscles. Woe has entered my heart. Gilgamesh made ready to speak, saying to Enkidu, there dwells in the forest the fierce monster Humbaba. You and I shall kill him, and wipe out something evil from the land. Another gap, resuming. Enkidu made ready to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, my friend, I knew that country when I roamed with the wild beasts. The forest is 60 double leagues in every direction. Who can go into it? Humbaba's cry is the roar of a deluge. His maw is fire. His breath is death. Why do you want to do this? The haunt of Humbaba is a hopeless quest. Gilgamesh made ready to speak, saying to Enkidu, I must go to the mountain forest. I must cut a cedar tree. That cedar must be big enough to make whirlwinds when it falls. Another gap. Enkidu made ready to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, how shall the likes of us go to the forest of cedars, my friend? In order to safeguard the forest of cedars, Enlil has appointed him to terrify the people. Enlil has destined him 7 fearsome glories. That journey is not to be undertaken. That creature is not to be looked upon. The guardian of the forest of cedars, Humbaba's cry is the roar of a deluge. His maw is fire. His breath is death. He can hear rustling in the forest for 60 double leagues. Who can go into his forest? Adad is first and Humbaba is second. Who, even among the gods, could attack him? In order to safeguard the forest of cedars, Enlil has appointed him to terrify the people. Enlil has destined him 7 fearsome glories. Besides, whoever enters his forest is struck down by disease. Gilgamesh made ready to speak, saying to Enkidu, why, my friend, do you raise such unworthy objections? Who, my friend, can go up to heaven? The gods dwell forever in the sun. People's days are numbered. Whatever they attempt is a puff of air. Here you are, even you, afraid of death. What has become of your bravery's might? I will go before you. You can call out to me, go on, be not afraid. If I fall on the way, I'll establish my name. Gilgamesh, who joined battle with fierce Humbaba, they'll say. You were born and grew up on the steppe. When a lion sprang at you, you knew what to do. Young men fled before you. And a gap. You speak unworthily. How you pule! You make me ill. I must set my hand to cutting a cedar tree. I must establish eternal fame. Come, my friend, let's both be off to the foundry. Let them cast axes such as we'll need. Off they went to the craftsman. The craftsmen, seated around, discussed the matter. They cast great axes. Axe blades weighing 180 pounds each they cast. They cast great daggers. Their blades were 120 pounds each. The cross guards of their handles 30 pounds each. They carried daggers worked with 30 pounds of gold. Gilgamesh and Enkidu bore 10 times 60 pounds each. They bolted the 7 gates of Uruk. Listened. The multitude convened, turned out in the street of ramparted Uruk. Gilgamesh, his throne in the street of ramparted Uruk, Enkidu sat before him. Gilgamesh spoke to the elders of ramparted Uruk. Hear me, O elders of ramparted Uruk. The one of whom they speak, I, Gilgamesh, would see. The one whose name resounds across the whole world. I will hunt him down in the forest of cedars. I will make the land hear how mighty is the scion of Uruk. I will set my hand to cutting a cedar. An eternal name I will make for myself. Hear me, O young men of ramparted Uruk, young men of Uruk who understand this cause. I have taken on a noble quest. I travel a distant road to where Humbaba is. I face a battle unknown, a mount of campaign unknown. Give me your blessing, that I may go on my journey, that I may indeed see your faces safely again, that I may indeed re-enter joyfully the gate of ramparted Uruk, that I may indeed return to hold the festival for the new year, that I may indeed celebrate the festival for the new year twice over. May that festival be held in my presence, the fanfares sound, may the drums resound before you. Enkidu pressed advice upon the elders, upon the young men of Uruk who understood this cause. Tell him he must not go to the forest of cedars. That journey is not to be undertaken. That creature is not to be looked upon. The guardian of the forest of cedars, Humbaba's cry is the roar of a deluge. His maw is fire, his breath is death. He can hear rustling in the forest for 60 double leagues. Who can go into his forest? Adad is first and Humbaba is second. Who, even among the gods, could attack him, in order to safeguard the forest of cedars? Enlil has appointed him to terrify the people. Enlil has destined him 7 fearsome glories. Besides, whosoever enters his forest is struck down by disease. The elders of ramparted Uruk arose. They responded to Gilgamesh with their advice. You are young, Gilgamesh. Your feelings carry you away. You are ignorant of what you speak. Flightiness has taken you. You do not know what you are attempting. We have heard of Humbaba. His features are grotesque. Who is there who could face his weaponry? He can hear rustling in the forest for 60 double leagues. Who can go into it? Humbaba's cry is the roar of a deluge. His maw is fire. His breath is death. Adad is first and Humbaba is second. Who, even among the gods, could attack him? In order to safeguard the forest of cedars, Enlil has appointed him to terrify the people. Enlil has destined him 7 fearsome glories. Besides, whoever enters his forest is struck down by disease. When Gilgamesh heard the speech of his counselors, he looked at his friend and laughed. Now then, my friend, do you say the same? I am afraid to die. And the rest of the tablet is missing.